Tonight, the corruption probe begins with another setback for Terry Metherell. Chips fly in Parliament over the failure of resource security legislation. And in Los Angeles, the welcome sight of traffic snarls. Good evening, Richard Moorcroft with ABC News. The Metherell affair moved into the legal arena today, bringing the government under scrutiny by its own watchdog against corruption. The ICAC began its inquiry into whether Dr. Terry Metherell was induced to quit his seat in Parliament. It quickly delivered rebukes to both Premier Nick Greiner and an opposition frontbencher, saying it wants a hearing free of political accusation. And Dr. Metherell got a rebuff from the government, which refused to grant him financial assistance to fight his case. State political reporter Michael Gleeson.
Ian Temby's primary task is to decide whether there was anything corrupt about Terry Metherell's resignation from Parliament and subsequent appointment to the public service. Today he showed who's in charge, firing a broadside at Premier Greiner and opposition legal spokesman Paul Whelan. It was prompted by yesterday's comment from the Premier on whether the ALP should be heard at the inquiry.
It would be unbelievable for the Labor Party to have standing.
Mr Whelan called that comment intimidatory. Mr Temby wasn't amused. It will be much better if anything Mr Greiner wishes to say to or concerning proceedings are said by him here, you understand? He called Mr Whelan equally unhelpful. I don't need to be the subject of a suggestion that I might be capable of intimidation. The ALP had a coterie of legal minds at the Commission trying to convince it that Labor should have the right to cross-examine witnesses. But after 2 hours of legal argument, Mr Temby disagreed. We want the job done in a dispassionate atmosphere, devoid of political accusation. Labor accepts it, but it isn't happy. The facts of the case will begin to be canvassed next week, when witnesses such as Premier Greiner, his Minister Tim Moore and Dr Metherell himself are expected to appear. The findings as to whether any corruption actually occurred will be known within a month. As for Dr Metherell, pleas by his lawyer today for government funding of his legal fees have fallen on deaf ears. The application rejected by Attorney General Peter Collins. But Cabinet hasn't been so tough on the Premier and Tim Moore. As with previous governments, their costs will be met in full by the taxpayer.
Both Liberal and Labor parties are passing the buck tonight over the defeat of the resource security legislation in the Senate. The forest industry, unions and state politicians have condemned the government and the opposition for their handling of the bill. As Brenda Conroy reports, its passage was regarded as essential to the development of a pulp mill in Tasmania.
Politics makes for strange bedfellows, and there were some odd alliances called upon in Parliament today as both sides struggled to justify their stand on resource security.
No backslide is going to remove from the Liberal Party the stain of last night's decision in killing a pulp mill in Tasmania.
The legislation designed to guarantee timber for new pulp mills was defeated in the Senate in the early hours of this morning, when coalition senators who believed the bill didn't go far enough voted with the Democrats who thought it went too far. And to defend that position today, John Hewson was quoting the Forestry Workers Union.
Clearly here is a situation where the radical left forces in the party, supported by the Prime Minister, have seized an opportunity to kill off a bill they didn't want.
Not to be outdone, the Prime Minister quoted Tasmania's Liberal Premier, Ray Groom.
I've told Dr Hewson that in my view this has to be passed. There is no need for amendments.
The company which had planned to build Tasmania's mill was cursing both sides.
But they have failed to get together to reach a compromise, to reach an understanding of what the community wants.
But John Hewson says the company isn't blameless either. He says he's not convinced APPM ever intended to build the mill.
And in fact, I wrote to them back in February asking them for an indication that if we passed the legislation as shoddy as it was, would they go ahead with the project? And I haven't even had an answer.
Nevertheless, Dr Hewson's Tasmanian backbenchers are bracing themselves for the backlash.
But there'll be a bit of a backlash, of course. It's already started. But if we explain the facts, well, we'll come out with in the correct way.
And John Hewson will be heading to Tasmania very soon to try to do just that.
Financial markets are tonight waiting for the Reserve Bank to announce its decision on cutting interest rates. But as they wait, Australia's two largest housing bodies are locked in a war of words over what savings should be passed on to home buyers. The Master Builders Association fears a further cut in mortgage rates would overheat the housing market.
The housing industry is one of the few sectors of the economy to show a steady recovery. Building approvals have increased almost 25% in the last 10 months. That's prompted fears from the Master Builders Association that any further interest rate cuts could overheat the market and lead to another property bust. But it appears the Master Builders are on their own.
Measured by the number of calls and faxes I've had into my office today, the industry is not looking for any quarantining of interest rate reductions from the housing industry.
The Housing Industry Association says most of the growth in approvals is occurring in Queensland, with New South Wales and Victoria languishing behind. It says a full 1% cut is necessary to take up the spare capacity in labour and building materials. Neither side will have to wait long to find out which argument wins. The board of the Reserve Bank met today to decide the size of the cut and who should get it. An announcement is expected tomorrow morning. But the rate cut isn't good news for everyone. Many retirees living off investments rely on interest payments for their cash flow. But as rates have fallen, their incomes have been cut by as much as 50%.
Many of them will have to start dipping in to their capital and use it up.
Meanwhile, markets are treating a 1% cut as a foregone conclusion. Yields on bank bills continued to fall today, further widening the gap between them and official cash rates. The share market opened strongly but lost most of its gains as trading progressed. Our dollar also closed higher.
A race is underway in Western Australia to recover thousands of jars of baby food at the centre of a poison scare. Someone mailed a jar of cyanide-laced baby food to police yesterday, threatening to use 5 other deadly jars to kill babies. The poison threat involves a bizarre link with the case that sparked the riots in Los Angeles.
It took a simple scientific test to confirm cyanide contamination of the Heinz baby food sent to police headquarters yesterday. Finding the culprit, though, will be much harder.
Because it is so recent, it is hard to build up a profile. The information is so scarce.
The only clues, the contaminated jar and a handwritten letter claiming there'd been 5 more jars poisoned. A threat to kill in retaliation for the acquittal last Thursday of the Los Angeles police at the centre of the Rodney King trial.
It doesn't state where, when, how or why they were to be distributed. It doesn't say they are contained to Western Australia, although it doesn't state that it would be in any other state of Australia.
H.J. Heinz reacted swiftly last night, recalling thousands of baby food jars. The company says it's unlikely any were poisoned at its factory.
No, there's no chance at all. We have evidence that the product was purchased in a Perth supermarket. It was posted in Perth and it was sent to the Perth police.
Major supermarkets cleared their shelves before opening this morning. But of more concern, hundreds of small shops, pharmacies and delicatessens. Local health surveyors worked through the day to account for all available stock.
Are the cans suitable for sale? Or?
Yeah, there's no problem with the cans. It's just any baby food in glass jars.
The poison threat bears remarkable similarities to a British case detailed in the latest edition of the Reader's Digest. A retired policeman had also chosen Heinz baby food for an extortion campaign which cost the company $70 million. Last year, Colgate-Palmolive was also targeted by a cyanide poisoner. The motive then was blackmail. So far, Perth's poisoner has issued no demands.
A sense of relief tonight in Los Angeles. The wounded city is getting back to normal. Ordinary things happened. People went to work, went home, and tonight they were allowed on the streets with the lifting of the curfew. But the grim toll remains. 58 people dead, more than 2,400 injured, much of the city wrecked. From our North American Bureau, Peter Ryan reports.
With the curfew lifted, signs that Los Angeles was crawling to life.
Well, you decided to head back to work this morning, and a lot of people are right along with you.
LA was back to wheeling and dealing. Lawyers and architects with plans to put businesses back on their feet. Insurance companies assessed the damage. The victims took down the boards, wondering where to start. as building firms competed for contracts.
Oh, well, I do demolition.
Some of the 14,000 people now out of a job applied for welfare. Schools reopened. Some students had been involved in the looting.
We all got mad and we started looting, and we got a chance to get out and get stuff while we could.
Others were fearing for their future.
The community is destroyed now. All of this is burned down. This liquor is burned down, that store is burned down, everything's burned down.
Despite the calm, soldiers still patrol the streets. These Marines on the trail of a sniper.
I heard it myself, I just didn't know where they were coming from.
Now the question of what to do. The Reverend Jesse Jackson was urging blacks to work together and vote for change in the presidential election.
If we're going to change the course, we must stop long enough to chart the course and know how to navigate the road.
In Washington, students marched through the streets while the president blamed Congress for stalling plans to solve inner-city problems.
We have some very good ideas that we have out there that would have been extraordinarily helpful if they'd been put into effect.
But his response so far has been seen by many as too slow and out of touch. And despite the worst domestic crisis of his presidency, Mr. Bush doesn't intend to visit Los Angeles until later this week. But opponents like Pat Buchanan and Bill Clinton have already flown to LA, working the media and offering answers.
Everybody I've talked to today says we want a say in this rebuilding plan. We don't want it to be like it was 27 years ago, where somebody comes up with a grandiose program that then everybody forgets about.
Many believe that's the greatest risk and say unless America creates better job opportunities, housing and education for its underprivileged, the violence seen in Los Angeles will only break out again.
A glimmer of hope in Bosnia today. Yugoslavia says it will begin withdrawing some troops in the next 2 weeks. The move comes after 48 hours of drama. The kidnap of the Bosnian president, a wild shootout in the capital, Sarajevo, the ambush of a federal army convoy, and the removal of part of the federal force is unlikely to stop the bloodshed. Maverick militia groups are literally calling the shots.
More shelling in Sarajevo as Europe's newest country continues to self-destruct. Much of the world, including Australia, has recognised the statehood of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Now a helpless world watches, unable to intercede in its demolition.
I wasn't aware there was a ceasefire listening to around the city. I don't think there's ever a ceasefire in Bosnia. It's just a term.
The UN has no mandate here. Sarajevo's only a base for its Peace Corps in Croatia. With European community monitors, though, its soldiers have been ad hoc mediators. Yesterday, they negotiated the release of the Bosnian president from the Yugoslav army. In return, several hundred trapped Yugoslav troops were promised safe passage out of Sarajevo. But their convoy was ambushed by Bosnian militiamen. 2 officers reportedly were executed in this ambulance. About 100 soldiers were captured. They were released today, the UN providing an escort to outer city barracks. But the incident highlights